And welcome back. In this chapter, we're going to talk about one of the ways that you can display on the screen the current score and a bit of other information for the user. Now, this is going to work very much like our heads-up display. In fact, in a lot of ways, it is a heads-up display as well. It's text instead of graphics, so instead of the GUI texture object, we will be using something called GUI text. But other than that, it works a lot the same way. We're going to be moving those static variables around to get what we need from one JavaScript function to another. So let's get to it. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is open Unity. And there we go. And now we're going to create a script. So in our project window, create menu, JavaScript, and we're going to name this script timer. Click enter, double click to open it. And let's find the timer script. There it is. It's got this function called function update, of course. We're going to change this slightly to something called fixed update. Just going to use this to show it to you. Fixed update is almost identical. It just only runs once per game cycle. Sometimes the system can run faster. Now we're going to start our variables here, and we're going to use some of those static variables so we can pass information around. Now, this is going to be, this first variable is a string. And you see I used a capital S. There's a gotcha in here. If you use a lowercase s as you're writing this, the system will give you this lowercase string, but it won't work. It's not what we want. We want the uppercase S string. So just be watching for that, that you don't get tripped up. And so that's the string time. We've got a second one we're going to create here. And this one is going to be called time count. And this one is going to be a float. And we're going to give this an initial value of 0. There's going to be a number of variables internal to this script to create this time for export. So we're going to skip ahead here, and here's what it looks like. Okay, if you look up at the top here, we've got all these variables. We've got our first two static variables that we can export to somewhere else if we need to. We've got integers called seconds and minutes. Well, int sec and int min. And then we've got a couple strings here called second 0 fill and string min 0 fill. What these are formatting. The deal is when you write the code that will say how many seconds or minutes have elapsed, which is what we're going to do in this, is that if it's less than 10, it's not going to put a leading 0. Now, usually when you look at digital clock type things, if the minutes is 12, there's no problem. But if the minutes are 2, usually those displays show it as 0, 2. Well, the system doesn't know to do that automatically, so we've got a couple of extra variables here that are going to let us plug that empty space in front of a single digit with a 0. So then we come into our function, our fixed update function, and the first two lines that we have set those fill values to blank strings, because most of the time that's what we're going to need. We're going to need blank strings. We're going to have numbers from 10 to 59, and they don't need blanks. And when we do, we'll add that, and that comes a little bit later on in the code. The next line is this time count, plus equals time dot delta time. And that's just a little internal way, this time dot delta time. It lets the system add the amount of time difference since the last time it came past here. So it just adds on these little bits of time to time count, so you get a total running time of the game. Then the next two lines, int sec equals a math function, floor to int, and we've seen that before, time count, and then this modulus division 60. So for seconds, it says, all right, I'm going to divide this by 60, whatever the value is in time count, and I just want the remainder, the part that's less than 60, and I want floor to int so that it cuts off any of the fractions, because I don't care about fractions of seconds for this display purpose. And then int min equals time count divided by 60. Now, we cheated a little bit here. This is cheating in a couple ways. First off, we're not worried about going into hours. This is not going to click over to 1 hour and something. This is kind of a short game. It's probably not going to go that long. But, if the minutes go past 59, it's going to show that. It would say 75 minutes and some seconds. So we just kind of made that a little bit easier there. We could do kind of the same thing we did in the seconds and do the remainder modulo division and a floor to int and all of that, and then put in hours. And we could do it days with 24. And, well, months would get a little difficult because you don't know whether it's 28, 29, 30, or 31 days in the month. And you could grab that information, but we're getting way, way out ahead of ourselves on something like this. So that's all we need. Don't get too confused. Just the second here that'll roll over to the minutes, and the minutes that'll just go forever. Okay, now these next two little sections here are these if tests that says if the int seconds is less than 10, then we're going to change that second zero fill that we started at a blank to 0. So we'll have our little plug value. And if int min is less than 10, then we're going to plug that as well. Then we're going to come down to this string time line here and say that's equal to string minute 0 fill, which is either going to be a 0 or a blank, and then the minutes, whatever the minute numbers are, plus the text string, the literal text string, min. So we're going to have a 0 or a blank, then the actual minutes, and then the text string minute, and notice there's spaces on either side of that, and then the second 0 fill, and then whatever the seconds value is, and then the literal string second. Notice we don't need a space at the end of seconds because, well, that's the end of this little bit of text here, so there's nothing else beyond that, so we don't need a space. So that gets our variable. They're in string time, and notice that is one of those static variables because we're going to be exporting that to some other thing that's going to be actually putting it on the screen. This is just tabulating it. And then we've got this line down here at the bottom called print str time. Well, that's taking that string time, that str time variable, and sending it to this function called print, which is going to print it down in the little extra gray space at the bottom left, that's along the bottom of the Unity screen, so that we can see it. It's kind of a little test way that we can see if this is actually working the way it's supposed to work. So it's eventually we're going to get rid of that line, but it's just a quick way to see if the code that we think we have, that we think is going to work, is actually going to work before we go and create other output things to try to use it. So you might wind up using that kind of a lot. So that's the script. It is in your book, so you don't have to worry about doing any copying from the screen here. But that's what it looks like. It's a little bit involved, and it might take a while to kind of understand what's going on with this. But we're near the end of the book, so that's kind of what you get. We're going to save this. We're going to close it. Then we're going to take this script here, and we're going to put it into the game. And the way we're going to do that is to go and create a new game object. And this new game object will not have any graphics associated with it. So just going to come up to the game object menu, create empty, and it gives us this game object down here. Click on it to get the name, and I'm going to rename this timer as well. And it disappeared, so scroll down, there it is. I need to take my timer JavaScript, just drag it to it. So now it's in the game, and there it is. We've got our variables showing. And let's just save the scene and the project here. Okay, so that is in the game. Now let's run it. And if we look down in that bottom left-hand corner, there it is, 0 min, 07, 08, 09. That's good. And so it works. So we still got that there. Let's come back into our script here and open the editor. Did I? Yes. Okay, there we go. It's open. And there's timer. Now we know that that works, so we could delete this line, but I'm just going to comment it out with a couple of slashes. There, it turns color. I'm going to save the script, and that's going to be it for this this video. We still need to actually create the real thing that we're going to use this with, the real text for the screen, but we'll get to that in the next video.